Okay, today we are going to check a few things. It's basically a sound test. Now, this is an XV1000, basically a slightly smaller 1100, and I'm going to check the different baffles in the muffler right there. Now, the thing is that most of you cut the end right there. As you can see, this one contains the baffles, or some sort of baffles. These are cheapy Chinese AliExpress adjustable baffles with holes and with a removable plug in the end. I'm going to show you in a sec. Well, not in a sec, but you'll see what I'm talking about if you're unfamiliar with these. So that's what we're going to start with, because at the moment it's exactly like the stock as far as volume and tone is concerned. Then I'm going to take the plug out, put this baffle back, check it again. Then I'm going to remove the whole shebang and leave it wide open, because you can see videos on YouTube where guys just remove the whole end baffle or the back plate with the baffle, and they have an empty chamber here and you can't really tell how it sounds. Hopefully you'll be able to hear the difference. And once we've done that, we are going to try a different sort of baffle. That one, that is a similar sort of Chinese thing. It's a 60mm stainless jobby in theory. Now this one has no holes. It's basically a resonator with about a 6cm long tube in the center. That's about 20mm in internal diameter, somewhat bigger than that, not a lot, but somewhat bigger. So yeah, we're going to try those and we can see what's going on, how they sound. And I'm going to use this smartphone here as a decibel meter, and that also has a spectral analyzer, a bit like the visualization you see on Winamp. If you remember that back from the 90s, or basically other MP3 players. The point is that this display will show us what frequencies come through and what are suppressed. You can see on the spectrograph if you have more deeper tones, or if we swap the baffles and the deeper tones disappear and more of the mid-range or the higher frequencies come into the foreground, we'll see. So that's why I use that one there, and you can also get an idea how loud it will be, whether it's compliant with your traffic regulations and whatnot, and so on. So yeah, that is going to be one of our indicators. So let's start with the stock. Well, it's not entirely stock, but it is just as loud as stock. So I'll set everything up, crank the bike over and see what happens. I had to get a different instrument, but we'll see what's going on. The Android phone will be a spectrograph, and that one is going to be our dB reader, because that one is more accurate. The Android started giving me bullshit numbers. Whatever. Right, so again, this is the stock-ish volume. Fuck you. Swap happened. I took the baffles with the holes out, unfortunately, I lied to you because I didn't remember. Well, actually, I don't use the plugs, so it would be a little bit more quiet even. Just make sure that if you use a short one with a plug, enlarge the holes there, because otherwise it will just choke the engine, because those are small 6mm holes. Do the math. The diameter of the little holes has to be equal or larger or more, of course, than the diameter, the ID of the baffle tube itself, where the exhaust can leave the muffler, the exhaust gas. So these are the baffles without the holes, which is, as far as I remember, were a little bit louder, but we'll see on the decibel meter in a second. Yeah, the engine is cold again. Not sure if you can hear it, but it has a bit more thump to it. Bit more of a rumble. If you go with a larger diameter tube, like a 38mm, which would be ideal for the CC, you would get more volume. As you can see, at idle, it's not louder than before, and you have the same sort of graph with more of a bass. So it has more thump because the gas pressure cannot escape through the side holes. It has to shoot out through the back, and depending how much volume it lets out, well, that depends on the size of the center baffle. With 30mm, this should be a little bit louder, but of course if the tube on the inside is too long and the gases cannot shoot out straight away, they bounce back, use the middle chamber and come out, then they will lose their energy, and of course with that they lose volume as well. So a shorter tube, in my opinion, would work better. Let's do the last one, which I hate because that is loud and it sounds tinny as fuck. It is basically without any baffles, it's just the empty rear chamber. So yeah, stay tuned. Final test. I'm not sure how well that shitty Android spectrograph will pick up the tinniness, the emptiness of that sound that I just can't describe. Basically, with this configuration, you don't have a back plate. The exhaust is totally empty on the inside, well, up to the second chamber. Basically, this acts like a megaphone sort of thing. Imagine that you hold a roll of paper towel to your mouth and try to speak through just the empty cardboard tube. That's the sound effect, or that's the effect this gives to the exhaust note. So, well, let's get this over with. Poor baby. is louder for sure. And check the spikes. That's the mid-range. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it because it's not that sort of rich, bassy tone. It's just somewhat louder, as you could see, 90 decibels at idle instead of 86. So it gave us 4 decibels, which in acoustics is quite a bit. It is louder, but in my opinion it sounds like shit. So yeah, I'd say for this sort of CC, the 38mm, which is 1.5 inches, I think, would be the right diameter here if you want to make a baffle like that. And a shortish, like a 67cm long center tube would be ideal, because if it's, I'm not sure if I can show you that, but yeah, video light on, but you have that wall right there, and if bloody water, so if the end of the tube touches that wall, basically that's, try to explain it, well, this tube here that I have my thing in, that's where the gases come from the first chamber, which comes from the collector box, the goat belly, so to speak. So that's where the gases come from, and that gets reverted back into the center chamber through the 2 small holes and the slightly bigger one on the top. The slightly bigger one used to be the socket for the last baffle that you ripped out probably. So yeah, basically if the tube is too long, it will overlap or go far beyond that tube on the bottom, and it will, well, the gases will be forced to bounce back into the middle chamber, and it will give a muffled noise like you experienced with the stock exhaust. Very similar, maybe a little bit louder, but that sort of tone. Same thing on the bottom, same sort of arrangement. Yeah, it is ratty on the inside, but the point is, whoever says in these groups that this configuration without any baffles sounds like shit, correct. In my opinion, it is hollow, it is boxy, it is tinny, a lot of echo. It gets better, but of course the volume, but right, let me rephrase. So it gets better when it comes to the tone, the richness of the noise gets better if you apply a baffle, a shorter one, but the volume is affected by the diameter of the tube. And yeah, that one, slightly larger diameter, stainless steel one without the holes, that was a bit louder, about a decibel, 2 decibels maybe, and it had a bit more thump. Meanwhile, the short ones with the holes, they were very, very close to the stock, with a bit more deep tones, so it wasn't as muffled, and it had a bit richer, deeper roar to it. So yeah, these are my findings. I'm not sure if the video will reflect what I've heard here in this afternoon, but yeah, that's all I can say about this matter. Take care.